Hello and welcome to the Beer Pad. It is Tuesday, and you know what that means. It's time for the
My
Beer
games
Pad.
room's a mess. I just realized, looked over my shoulder, I got like fucking papers and everything everywhere. I really need to gut this and redo
It
it.
it looks real and organic than lived in. I
No, it looks
appreciate
like
it.
I spent the last sort of like 10 days working on a game.
Uh,
And I've just been at this desk and then moving over that desk to type up and everything. And yeah, the place looks, I mean, thank God the camera doesn't show everything else because it's just a fucking shit show. Anyway, Raymondo, how are you, my dear?
I'm doing okay, Marcus Beer. Anything new and exciting in Southern California?
Finished Starfield today.
Hey, wow.
Fucking finally. I
What
mean,
was your game clock hours at the end?
oh god, I have no idea. Probably I mean, this was just this was the main quest with a bunch of side quests, but I'm
Right.
guessing I've probably put about 60 to 80 hours in.
Ooh,
And now I've hit the new game plus, so anybody who's completed Starfield will know what that means. And if you haven't completed it, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but yeah, it's a hell of a game. So I know I even though I did a whole bunch of side quests, I mean, some of them were just amazing, so long and intricate, but they felt so cool. There's one where you literally have to take down the Crimson Fleet, which are a bunch of pirates, Crimson pirates, and you get in, and it's an undercover mission. You have to do a bunch of dubious shit while not breaking any laws. It's just a great quest line. And it's very satisfying because at the end of the day, you either taken them down, kept them going, or fucked off with the money. So, yeah.
how long do you think you'll stick with New Game Plus? Do you think you'll finish the run?
I think it. Well, I don't think you could ever finish it. I mean, that's the thing. It's very clever in that New Game Plus, plus. Every time you complete it, it will take you to a new universe.
Aha.
So hashtag spoilers, hashtag it's been out 6 weeks, fucking grow up. But yeah, I mean, obviously there are other games coming out. There's Spider-Man 2,
Yes.
and obviously Cyberpunk's expansion dropped last month. But I'm broke, so until I've got some money, I'm going to keep on playing Starfield, and hopefully there'll be a Steam sale at some point. So, yes. So what have you been up to? What's going on with your world?
Well, over my shoulder there, I have a new guitar gig bag from Reunion Blues. Very excited, as excited as you can be about a bag. I am that
Hey,
excited.
it looks fantastic.
It is by far
Delicious.
the most protective guitar bag that I have. I have a few cheaper gig bags and a few hard cases, and I prefer gig bags unless I'm flying. So this is a great combination of being convenient to use, has backpack straps, so easy to bring around, but also the padding is really, really protective. So I'm not going to worry about my guitar. And after this episode, I'm going to throw it down the stairs a few times just to test it out and see how the neighbors like that. So Marcus, we have another comic book episode today. We already went through
the trilogy.
Yes. We went through our favorite DC and Marvel graphic novels. What do we have today?
We have the ones that aren't DC or Marvel. It's a very wide range we're pulling from today.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, basically anything comic book related, or any comic books that are not DC, not Marvel. They might be Marvel or DC now if they were another imprint back then, but if the books we are talking about are from back then we count them outside the DC Marvel conglomerate.
Yeah. And
which makes sense.
Surprisingly, I thought I'd have a harder time doing this one than the others, but the DC one, the Marvel one was the hardest for me, and this one was really straightforward. We already have some comments coming in. We will save those towards the end. Some interesting stuff there, but we are going to talk about our 5 favorite graphic novels and collected editions. And in the second most famous phrase from Poe Dameron, who goes first? Do I go first? Do you go first?
You went first last week, so
yes.
I'm going to go first this week.
All right.
And mine is a classic book that got turned into a movie that is nothing like the book. And that comic book is Wanted, which was obviously really turned into an Angelina Jolie, Morgan Freeman, and
Professor X,
young
right?
Xavier, James McAvoy. They were obviously in the movie, but I bought the book after watching the movie. I'm so glad I did, because this is like interdimensional traveling. There's aliens. There's talking piles of shit. It's
Literally?
violent. Yes, there's literally talking piles of shit. Yeah, there's all sorts of interdimensional hopping. There's piss takes of Marvel and DC stuff. It's a great book. Obviously by Mark Miller and J.G. Jones, but I mean, Mark Miller is obviously somebody who's contributed to our lists every week so far.
That's right.
The guy's incredibly talented. So yeah, it's just it's not the book I was expecting. It has a lot of the similar beats in that, there's the main character, he's an orphan, he's inconsequential, blah blah blah, and then he finds out. But the way he takes it to assassinations like a fucking duck to water, and it's such a I mean, there's so many great characters. Some of them are just absolute bastards. And the language, I mean, it's not often you read a comic book and somebody gets called a goat fucker. So, I thoroughly recommend it, if especially after talking about last week where we talked about Punisher Max. And that was another of my favorites. This is a similar grown up, edgy, offensive.
So it
right
seems
up my alley, basically.
Grittier and heavier tonally than the movie. Is that right?
It's not. I mean, it's certainly more adult. With the nudity and the violence and everything. And that one's quite violent. I wouldn't say it's gritty. I mean, it's colorful and bright. And like I said, there's a murderous talking pile of shit. So yeah, it's an absolute classic as far as I'm concerned. It's nothing like the book. It's nothing like the video game. And there's no bending bullets. There's no.
I thought that was lame in the movie, the way they did it. I don't know. It didn't work for me. But I am interested in the book now that I learned more.
I really recommend the book. It's fun. Look, Mark Miller, you can't go wrong. You know what you're getting with Mark Miller.
Right.
All right. So that was my number 5. What's your number 5?
Mine, similar to yours, was also adapted into a work, but not a movie. It was adapted into a television series. It is Invincible, which is a fantastic book, and also a surprisingly good adaptation on Amazon Prime Video.
Excellent adaptation. Yeah. I've never read the book, and I really should. I mean, actually, you can tell me now, if I've obviously watched the animated series, which is top quality. I'm going to rewatch it before season 2 drops, with such a great voice cast. Is the book and the animated series identical? Because the art style is identical.
In terms of plot, it's not a straight up adaptation. There are some differences, but tonally, I think they nailed it with the show, while making some changes to work for a serialized TV show. But if you enjoy the series, I think you'll definitely enjoy the book. The things that I love about it is that it's really subversive and not at all what I expected going in, because it looks like a typical Invincible himself. He looks like that high school superhero getting new to his powers. So you think it's this innocent, positive book, but it is not. There's a lot of twisted and sinister things going on. And while I like Invincible himself, for me, Omni-Man is the most interesting character. He's one of those guys that he plays, what if Superman were an asshole? So I like that. Characters like Majestic. And we find out some not so nice things about Omni-Man, who in the first few books, he seems like a Superman pastiche. He is like the greatest superhero in the world, total white bread American, even though he's an alien. But we find out he is not those things at all. That is just a facade.
He's a bit of a dick.
Oh, he's totally.
But he looks like J. Jonah Jameson. and sounds like Jake Jonah Jameson
Wonder why
in the
that is.
animated series.
Yeah. Wonder why that is. But yeah, he's the animated series is great, and like
It
you
is.
said, great voice cast. Stephen Yun plays Invincible. Who else is in there? Seth Rogen comes in later. He has a nice role, but yeah, I like that. Similar to what you said about Wanted, how it pokes fun at the traditional DC and Marvel. You know, there's a lot of poking fun at Avengers and Justice League and twisting it on its, turning it on its head. And I just really like how twisted it got. And here is Invincible himself. See, he looks like a nice young superhero that is going to do good, but no, he gets into some messed up adventures, gets his ass kicked a lot, and it ends up becoming a world spanning intergalactic adventure, which I also was not expecting
So let
towards
me
the
ask
end
you.
there. Yeah.
Obviously, we had season one. We're obviously looking forward to season two. They
Yes.
dropped a special prequel slash teaser adaptation,
For
which
Adam
got
Eve.
you all excited. Yeah, and Apple TV lied to you and told you that
Oh,
season two had dropped, and you were like,
I know.
"What?" And then your little face. Oh my goodness. So how does it work with the books? Is book one season one, book one, two, three, season one?
So far, it looks that way. Yeah, book one is definitely season one. I don't know how much ground they're going to cover in the second season of the show, but
How big is the book then? Because obviously we're looking at, was it an 8 episode,
yeah,
25 minutes to half an hour. So I
yeah.
mean that's 4 hours worth of animated series. That's quite a lot of book.
I mean, depending on how successful the series does for Amazon, you can get 5 or 6 seasons out of the books, including the spin-off adventures. So, like we saw with Adam Eve, the special they have, they could do side quests and flesh out the universe and the characters. And I hope they do, because the cast is phenomenal, and so the show so far is phenomenal. So that brings us to number 4 on your list, sir. What do we got here?
Number 4 on my list is The Darkness. And no, I don't mean that vastly overrated group from sort of like 2006 who were everywhere for about 3 weeks and then just died. Not literally, they didn't die. But no, this is a book that I only got into again because it was being turned into a video game. And
That's right.
yeah, I think it got cancelled. I don't think it ever came out, did it?
I don't
Or
know.
if it did, it just died a death.
Was that Acclaim? Was Acclaim doing that?
I can't remember.
Hmm.
But anyway, so The Darkness is all about a little gangstery henchman-y type gumbar, smooth talker. There he is. He's a smooth talker. He's great with the ladies. He doesn't mind getting his hands dirty for his uncle, who is the crime boss. And when he hits, I think it's 21, he gets that he discovers that the darkness he has this power in him, the darkness, that it was passed on from father to son to born.
Ah.
And the way it's passed on is it passed on at the point of conception.
Oh.
So basically, his dad, when he got to a certain age, had sex, knocked up the guy's mother, and then died because he passed the power on and he died. And so now this is the ladies' man who's like, all about the ladies and the cars and the guns and blah, blah, blah. And he cannot have sex again. Because if he does, yeah. And so obviously he gets this power. It's a demon. It's a proper demon inside him. And it's a demon that only thrives in the darkness. And so it talks about, the battle between light and the dark. And you see the light side, and you see these angelic Valkyrie type women who are out to destroy the darkness. And he is very much an anti-hero from the get-go, especially when he gets to manage his powers, because obviously, I mean, things happen. People take revenge on him, on his loved ones, blah blah blah, and it's got some emotional depth, and it's not the traditional, oh, I've got this, I'm just going to go fucking nuts and just look at me, it's wonderful. There are consequences for his actions. There are people out to destroy him, and then on the counter side of that, there's people who are disciples of the darkness who want him to become the all powerful, and he doesn't want to do that because he's got, he didn't know he was what happened to his dad. He was dropped off at an orphanage as a kid. And so he's got a best friend, and she was at the orphanage with him. And, again, it's violent. It's lots of nudity, lots of swearing, much like Wanted. But this is, heavy on the supernatural. And again, it's just a great book, and it's fun, and it's a big fucking book as well. There's a lot of content there, and some of the characters are likable. You can't help but root for the hero, and it doesn't really paint the perceived good guys in a good light.
Okay.
And it just generally tends to go, it just goes to show you can't judge books by the cover. Those who would claim to be on the side of righteousness and blah 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 invariably are worse than the people they're trying to take out, as in real life. So yes, it's a thoroughly outstanding book and thoroughly enjoyable. I give it 10 thumbs up.
Excellent. Now, continuing in our Mark Miller kick, which we've been on since the DC episode, DC Marvel and the indie books, I'm going with Kick-Ass for my number 4 pick. This is a great book about, what if a normal high school dork decided to try to become a superhero? And it is as ridiculous as that premise sounds. And what I like about this is that it takes things like a Batman. You have Big Daddy, and it's set up like he's this dark Batman character. He has his daughter's sidekick, but he is not that at all. He's a total, poser, it turns out. And
Big Daddy's not necessarily a poser, is he?
He's not.
I wouldn't say he's a poser.
He's not,
because obviously
really.
I've got Kick-Ass 1 and 2 as well.
Right.
We should talk about Kick-Ass 2, but I mean, he's not necessarily. I wouldn't say he's a poser. I mean, he's obviously he's very strict, and he has these standards, but he's not a driven, noble hero like the way that Bruce Wayne is. He's more like the Punisher, isn't he?
He's like a messed up Punisher, or
Punisher. Yeah. When you're a twisted Punisher, there's something wrong with him.
I mean, the Punisher doesn't drag a kid into it, so he's got him on there. His daughter, Hit Girl, also a wonderful character. But I love the tone of this book, and part of it is set up by the art, which is John Romita Jr. As I said in the previous episodes, I'm usually not big on a big art guy. I appreciate the art, but the art here, Romita's style is so distinct, which I learned from his Spider-Man comics. But I love the lines that he draws. It just gives it a raw feeling, which I think totally reflects this book. But I like the character of Dave Lazuski. I think he's a nice, innocent boy that gets in over his head. And
he's a nerd, but he finds love.
Yeah. I mean, what is his superpower is nerve damage. So
well, he can't feel pain. So, I mean, that's great. Well, doesn't he also have, they put some metal rods into his body as well. So he's got, but I mean,
it's not really a superpower.
Yeah, it's not a superpower. His superpower is his large heart.
Yes. The power was in him all along.
Now, what do you think of Kick-Ass 2?
I like them. I read that, and I also read the Hit Girl spinoff, which I think I borrowed from our friend Paul Semmel, and I forgot to give back like 10 years ago or something. So
sorry, Paul.
Yeah.
I haven't read that. I haven't read the Hit Girl spinoff, but I've got Kick-Ass 1 and 2, and I mean, obviously they got turned into movies, and I think Kick-Ass 2 unfortunately died a death, which really sucks because I liked that movie. I thought it was, both movies were great, but the books I mean, in the books, he looks so much younger.
Right. Right.
But yeah, it's a great series of books.
Yeah. I'm very happy with how, again, like a lot of the other things that we picked in this episode, it pokes fun at the traditional superhero norms, and that gives them all kinds of freedom to explore ridiculous adventures. So I think that's why I like it. And Mark Miller's fantastic, of course.
We should just have done a fucking 1 hour Mark Miller
Yeah.
episode.
Our 10 favorite Mark Miller. That'd be hard, actually.
Yeah, that's a lot of Mark Miller, but also that's not enough Mark Miller.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm interested in your third pick because it is something I am not familiar with at all. But what do we got here?
So I'll let you put up the graphic, and then I'll go all about it.
It took me a while to spell this correctly. I kept messing up the ticker. I'm like, Absalami. What?
Absalami. Absalom Dark, Dalek Killer. It's a spin-off from the Doctor Who comics of the
Yes.
of the 80s. Absalom Dark, again, I mean, there's a recurring theme in my picks. Very unlikable guy, mercenary criminal. He has the coolest. So that sword there he's got is a vibro sword. That's made of Dalekanium, and that is the only thing that can slice through a Dalek's shell. So you see the armor on his shoulders there. That's based around, that's from a Dalek as well. I mean, he's basically, he's got the ponytail, he's got the muscles, he's got the square jaw. He is a total arsehole. And initially he's not really interested in fighting anything, but then he falls in love.
I thought you were going to say they killed his parents after seeing
Zorro. No. He basically, he does some things, meets this person, falls in love, and Daleks do the dirty on him. And it's there's a panel in it where he's holding the body of his beloved, and he screams, "I'm going to kill every freaking Dalek in the universe." And then he does in very, very, go. I mean, for 1980s kids, I mean, this was a kids comic. This was a flat out kids comic, Doctor Who kids TV show. You couldn't go sweary. You couldn't go. You couldn't go nudity. You couldn't go too much blood and gore, which is why taking out Daleks is great, because he's just lopping through these upside down pepper pots. But it's just I mean, for me, it's a blast to my past, to my growing up, my as a teenager, just enjoying this. And it was a flip between this one and then something else called the Dave Gibbons Collection, which is a selection of his works from Doctor Who magazine, and it's all a bunch of different stories. And the reason I want to touch on that is if anybody is planning on watching the Doctor Who specials that are coming up, the 60th anniversary specials with David Tennant, the first episode with is based on a Dave Gibbons book. And it's the first time I think Doctor Who has actually gone to that particular well and taken a story and fleshed it out. And I'm so looking forward to see it. When I saw the trailer, I looked at the bad guy and said, "It's fucking Meep," because Meep is this it's this really cute character, and that's all it does is go Meep Meep until it learns to speak English. But they've obviously put a new spin on it. They've brought the character in, and I am so looking forward to seeing that next month. But Absalom Dark Dalek Killer is an absolute baller, and I mean, it just continues my thing for anti-heroes who like violence.
Gotcha.
Can you say Marcus is repressed?
That is your wheelhouse.
Totally. Yes, understand. In fact, I mean, 4 of my top 5 are all in that.
Love it.
Give me your number 3, big boy.
So number 3, I think this is one of the most influential graphic novels ever. There is one thing bad about it that I will save for the end, but I am talking Watchmen. You mentioned Dave Gibbons before. He does the art for this book, written by the excellent and sometimes twisted Alan Moore. He's one of you
Huge
guys.
Fisherman.
Yes. So this, at the time, I had never read anything like this. It's was mostly a DC and Marvel guy, rarely strayed outside of those main series. And this was just so much heavier and intelligent and thoughtful. The characters were all, both the villains and the heroes, they just seemed more three-dimensional than your Spider-Man, your Batman, for me at the time, and how comics were at that time. And this was just, it was kind of like the Wizard of Oz moment where everything turns color. It was just this whole new world for me. And these characters were supposed to be, originally they were supposed to be DC characters, but they couldn't get permissions for all of them. You can see who was supposed to be who. You could kind of guess by their superpowers and how they were written, but it doesn't matter. Alan Moore is a creative genius, and he wrote one of the best comic book stories ever. Everyone loves Rorschach, and he is a fantastic character, but I loved Ozymandias. He just seems like a shockingly effective antagonist in this book. I don't want to say he's a villain, because he's trying to do something right for the world, even though his methods are kind of messed up. And you have even little things like Owlman experiencing impotency that never happened in any comic book that I've read before, so this was very, I guess this was my first adult style comic book, and it got adapted into a movie, which I think was the best thing that Zack Snyder ever did.
Pretty much. I mean, that and the 300. Those are the only two things he did that have ever been any good. And anybody who disagrees with me, lick that.
But I think that, I think that's the thing I dislike about Watchmen, is there was a brief moment where it made us think that Zack Snyder was a genius.
Yes, we thought he had talent. But then, I mean, the only thing worth watching is actually the 76-hour director's cut, because it's got everything in there. The theatrical cut was monumentally disappointing. And then obviously he went off to do Justice League, and the Justice League cut the Snyder cut that he did was just horrible. It's almost like, oh, I did it once and it was brilliant, and now look at it in this shit, and oh, I'm going to now do it in fucking 4.3, and then I'm going to make it black and white because I'm an auteur. Yeah,
totally didn't get it. I totally get why so many fans were clamoring for that. Release the Snyder cut. I'm like, please don't.
Burn the fucking Snyder cut. Anyway, yes, I agree with you. This is, I mean, it's funny. Ozymandias in the book looks nothing like Ozymandias in the movie, whereas Rorschach does, and Dr. Manhattan. Owlman is, he looks a little bit different. Silk Spectre, she's about about the same. But I'm with you. I mean, it's one of those ones. I actually recommended this to a book club about, I don't know, a decade ago. Or actually even later than more than a decade ago, and everybody read it, and they were not used to reading graphic novels, and they all really liked it. So I mean, it's a very, very heavy political book as well, because Alan Moore is a famous socialist, or maybe an anarchist now. But he
depends on the day, huh?
Yeah, the stuff he put in there about Nixon, and the stuff he put in there about Vietnam, and you see touches of it in the movie. But yeah, it's interesting how they pulled all that off. And you've got the little vignettes, the interstitials, which is the pirate book,
right?
The Curse of the Black Spot, Pearl, whatever it was, the Black G Spot. Anyway, yes. So I am with you on this, and I mean, there are a bunch of. I mean, there's some books that we have not included in here. Some by Alan Moore. V for Vendetta,
Oh, so good.
Sin City.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, these are iconic works of art that we have not really put in, and it's just. I mean, we didn't even touch on. Actually, we did. There is one. There is one that I was like, "Oh, do I put it in or do I not?" And I was like, "No," but thankfully you put it in, and we'll come to that one shortly. But yeah, I mean, there are, as always, there's so many books that we could stay here all day and we could do a live stream that would last for 26 hours and we wouldn't even scratch the surface of all of our favorite books.
I do have a quick question for you about the Watchmen movie. The scene, spoilers, where Silk Spectre is figuring out who her father was. It's all done with flashback images, and you're kind of like seeing her thoughts panel by panel. But in the movie, they actually have Dr. Manhattan say out loud, "The comedian was your father." And I hated that moment because they show the scenes where you can figure it out. But it made me think, is the movie going audience so stupid that you literally have to say it?
Well, I think actually, I don't think that's in the director's cut. I think in the director's cut, he had more footage. I may be wrong, but I remember seeing that footage of, you know, all the other things and what was said, and, you know, her putting two together. But yeah, I mean, he's hardly the most delicate filmmaker.
Exactly. It was so ham-fisted. I hated that moment, and what was otherwise a pretty much a panel by panel adaptation. I don't know. That really bothered me.
I mean, my favorite part in the movie is the prison break when they going to break up Rorschach, and he chases the criminal into the bathroom, and you can see the door swinging, and it's swinging and defying all laws of physics and momentum because it just keeps on swinging in and out like there's some prop guy the other side going, and you just see Rorschach getting closer, and the guy. And then when it finally stops, you see this puddle of blood come under. And I will give credit where credit's due. That is a fucking wonderfully filmed
absolutely
sequence. In fact, all of Rorschach in prison.
And it's really well performed.
I'm not in here with you.
You're trapped in here with me. Yeah. Played by the cool kid from the Bad News Bears, which still astounds me. That's who that guy became.
And Freddy Krueger.
Was he?
He was Freddy Krueger in the reboot.
I did not know that.
Horrible reboot that died to death.
Oh, well, yeah. Robert Englund is perfect in that role, so I can't. Picking that up is why try. So we are at our number 2 picks. What do we got here, Marcus?
What is my number 2? Oh, right, yes. So this one's got a little bit of DC in it, but
it counts as a
It's a 2000 AD joint, basically. It's Batman, Judge Dredd, Judgment on Gotham. Now, I'm not generally a fan of the cross-pollination of books from different publishers. I mean, because most of the time they get a little bit silly. I mean, there are some that work, but I mean, there are some Superman, there's some DC Marvel team-ups that you can get in collected form that are... But this one, I mean, this one is so Judge Death escapes Mega City 1 and jumps into a time vortex, time displacement, dimensional fucking doohickey. And where does he end up? Gotham.
Dun dun dun.
Exactly. And who do they send after him?
Robin. No.
Sylvester Stallone. I am the law. It wasn't. That movie was so bad.
It wasn't Rob Schneider's character. They didn't send him.
Oh, God. And if you're watching a Judge Dredd movie, there's only one Judge Dredd movie worth watching, and it's not the one with Sylvester Stallone. It's the one with Bones McCoy. What's his name?
Who was also in the Lord of the Rings and
yes.
And the
My wife has a huge crush on him.
Carl Urban.
Yes. Yes. If my wife ever leaves me, it'll be for Carl Urban. But anyway, so yeah, Dredd goes after him, and actually no, Dredd doesn't go after him. I'm getting it mixed up. Batman defeats Death and then ends up going to Gotham. And you see that's when he gets introduced to Dredd, and you can see obviously these two characters who are so identical in a lot of ways. It's like, I will not kill. One guy who's like, both sticklers for the law, but one will not kill.
Right.
Does X, Y, and Z, and the other one is, the law is finite, and if it says I have to execute you, I'll fucking execute you. And how they come together and how they end up working together, and it's just really, really, really great and enjoyable. And I mean, I've always had a huge love for 2000 AD. I started reading it probably when I was about 9 or 10. Because it's one of those rarities in that it's a full-on British comic book from start to finish. Even though Dredd is an American character and mega cities are all set in America, I mean, this is 100% a British book that has been going for so long and is now owned by the people behind Rebellion, the video game company. Not many people know that, but yes, it is, and they've got he's never really been put into a proper game, which is a shame because Dredd is an iconic character. But yeah, definitely watch the Carl Urban movie because that's the closest to the books. But I really, really recommend Judgment on Gotham because it's got Judge Death in Gotham. So you've got him in this sort of like more realistic or more recognizable world for us. And then you've got Batman in Mega City 1 with all the hijinks and everything that ensue there. Yes, very enjoyable book. And again, continuing my theme of, violence and bastards and everything. I really went for grown-up stuff.
I didn't really think about it till we said it out loud, but Carl Urban has really carved out a nice career as a nerd god with Judge Dredd, The Lord of the Rings, The Boys, and
Star Trek.
I mean, kudos to him. Fine actor.
He could have gone the way of just doing a bunch of rom-coms.
He was that guy when he was younger, wasn't he? Yeah.
I don't think he ever really went full Ryan Reynolds, but
he could have. Yeah,
he could have gone that way because I mean, he has the chin, he has the jawline.
You kind of forget because I'm used to seeing him in The Boys, and he's all like gruff, but when he was young, he was a handsome man. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Well, he's still a handsome,
but
man.
in a different.
Come on,
in a different.
I mean,
way.
He's now sort of like grizzled, but he's still. He reeks of manhood.
Yes.
Like he bathed in it this morning.
Yes. He is the man that I just would not aspire to be because I could never reach those heights. That's just not me. And I'm okay with that.
He will just stand in his large shadow.
Yes. So moving on to my number 2 pick
I've never heard of this, by the way.
Okay, this will be fun then. I had said in a few of our episodes that my favorite comic in the last 10 years was Ms. Marvel. And a close number 2 is Rat Queens by Curtis Weeb. And this is an interesting book. Let me flash the screen here. It is set in a fantasy world where it's swords and sorcery, but it's about these 4 women, and they're later joined by a trans ogre, which just wrap your head around that.
Like person. You do.
Yes.
Why can't ogres be trans? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Not an ally?
Yeah. No. I love it, but it
trans ogre rights. That's what I say.
It shows the tone of this book because it's about these 4 close friends that go on sword and sorcery adventures. You have your halfling thief, you have your cleric, you have your wizard, and you have the dwarf who later develops a beard because female dwarves in this world have beards. She's the warrior tank. So there are all these archetypes of fantasy characters. But in addition to doing the sword and sorcery things, they do recreational drugs. They get drunk. They have casual sex with people in the bar. And they're just 4 close friends going on adventures at the end of the day. And I love how it makes fun of, the Lord of the Rings and Dungeons and Dragons. But at the end of the day, it's about the friendship between these women. And this is something I really want to show to my niece. Maybe when she grows up, because the drugs and the sex are probably a bit much for her at 4. So we'll hold off on that.
Maybe just a little bit.
But I love the parody. The writing is fantastic. And as silly as it gets, there's a lot of over-the-top violence, not in a bloody, gory way, but almost in a comical way. And there's a lot of heart because it is about the friendship between these women and their conflicts and growing stronger and them supporting each other. So yes, that is Rat Queens, which is actually, I think the last issue is coming out this month or next month. So
Oh wow.
yeah, so that it is timely. Go pick up the first series if you can. I believe it is on Comixology as well if you subscribe to that service. But it is definitely worth reading if you like Dungeons and Dragons or the fantasy world. But if you like making fun of it even more, you will love this book. So that is my number 2 pick. Leading us to your number 1, Marcus Beer. What do we got?
Yes, my number one, and this is going to be, this is tricky because it's a Vertigo book. And Vertigo's owned by DC.
Yes,
and I don't think it was owned by DC at the time. This book came out in 2000. First came out in 2002 and ran for 12 years. And it is called Fables. And so the premise is astoundingly simple. It features characters from fairy tales and folklore, referring to themselves as the Fables, and they have this hidden community in New York called Fabletown. And you get, there's it's got a sheriff. There's Bigby Wolf is the sheriff. Now he is also there is a video game that came out from, I think it was Telltale.
Yes.
Was it the Wolf Within, where you play Bigby? So he's generally the titular hero because a lot of stuff does go through him. He's the action guy, but Snow White is in it, Prince Charming, all sorts of different all characters from, like I said, fables and nursery rhymes, etc., etc. And again, it taps back into, it's a very, very mature book. It's not for wee nippers and bairns. It's for the big people. And it's ran for 150 episodes, 150 books, which is pretty fucking cool when you think about it.
Especially for an indie.
Yeah, for an indie. So, and interestingly enough, and I forgot about this, Bill Winningham, who created Fables, he's the sole IP owner of the books. Or he was until earlier this year, where he announced he allowed the Fables IP to enter public domain after he got pissed off at DC.
Oh.
So, yeah, DC can't make, they can still make money off it because obviously now it's in the public domain. Any fucker can do it. But I think it's very interesting what he's done. But again, it's just a great book. I mean, I bought the first couple of books just after it was recommended to me. I got the graphic novels, the trade paperbacks, if you will. And I read the first 3 in the first night I had them, back to back to back to back. And then I went on Amazon and just ordered the next. I think I've probably got 13 of the 15 trade paperbacks that were released. There's a lot of different story arcs that run through. There's sorry, I had an itchy head. There's it just provides this wholly different take on these fables as if they were real characters living in a real world,
in a modern world.
In a modern world, but they've got their own little enclave, and they do have this. They did have their own place, their own home, but it got destroyed by the adversary, which is the big bad. And you don't learn too much of it; you just learn drips and drabs. But there's politics, there's sex, there's violence, there's intrigue, everything a grown boy needs. And Fables is just a gloriously beautiful and original take on what should be kids stuff,
right?
And I think that's what a lot of people would have probably said when they first looked at it. It's like, what, Snow White's in this? Fuck off. But the fact that it does things to Snow White that Disney would never do,
and then some. Yes.
And then I'm good with that. I haven't. Sorry, Carlos. No, I haven't. He just asked the question.
Yeah, we will address that for sure. But well, you just
Have
did.
you read? Have you read Fables?
The first, I want to say 3, maybe 4, but I bought, I think, the first 6 collected editions, and they're still unpacked.
I
I
might
think
have to
I
go back and read them all.
I think I moved here 7 years ago, and I still have yet to fully unpack.
Wow.
I hate packing and unpacking and moving in general. It's terrible. So, yeah, Fables also highly recommended. I love the twisted fairy tale that it tells.
Yeah. This is the anti-Disney fairy tale.
Yes.
I mean, it basically shits on Disney from a very, very high. And Bill Willingham is a genius.
Now, my
Go
number
ahead.
one pick is a Neil Gaiman tale, who, along with Alan Moore, he's one of the writers that I just put above and beyond everyone else, because I just think he's so creative and imaginative. And a lot of people know him from his Sandman comic books, but the first one that really grabbed me was Season of Mists, which has influenced a lot of things in pop culture that we've seen today. So the premise of this Sandman story is that Sandman, the Lord of Dreams, is going off to confront Lucifer to claim the soul. Lucifer has the soul of the woman he loves, and the Lord of Dreams wants to get it back. But he finds out that Lucifer is tired of running hell. He's just sick of it, and he wants to quit hell, basically. And I love the conceit of that concept. It is so heady and awesome. And
Which
it
then
doesn't,
sets Lucifer off on his own comic book.
yes, which is also wonderful, and also became a series on Fox,
A quite enjoyable series, it has to be said.
starring a very dashing Welshman.
Tom Ellis in the house.
Yes.
It
But
was between me and him. So, but he can
Yeah.
act and I can't.
So they made that one more of they added a police procedural element to the show, which wasn't really in the comics, but a lot of the elements of the Lucifer comics are. But I love the whole idea of Lucifer being fed up with running hell and questioning. It becomes a discussion of destiny versus free will, which is also very fascinating. So he gives Sandman the key to hell, and he has to figure out what to do with it. So all these gods from different pantheons are coming here. So you have a very drunken Thor coming in. You have gods from Japan. You have lords of chaos, lords of order. All these different gods coming in, staking a claim like, hey, we should get the key to hell because of this. And Sandman is hosting this dinner, and shenanigans happen, of course. I will not spoil the rest of it for you. But it's just such a creative and imaginative story. And yeah, just the whole idea of what if Lucifer, what if the devil got sick of running hell? Well, what would happen? Very creative. And it just shows what a genius Neil Gaiman is, because he really is one of the best writers of anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, Lucifer, American Gods, Good Omens.
Good Omens.
Now, I wanted to while we're talking about Gaiman, and we talked about Good Omens, we did an episode fully devoted to Good Omens.
Yes.
And I said something there that caused a little bit of controversy.
Yes.
I talked about the end and the kiss, and I didn't need that. And I was perceived to be homophobic and bloody blue, and that's what it's like in the books. And I never really responded to it. And I just want to say it's nothing to do with homophobia. It's more of a aversion to fucking romance, because I'm just over it. And I wasn't aware it was in the books because I never read the fucking books. My only experience had been the TV show, and that was enough for me. I was enjoying the TV show. We don't always have to read the books. We don't always have to watch the TV show. Sometimes one can supersede the other. So to all those who bitched and moaned and called me a bigot and this, that, and the other, kiss my ass. I am unrepentant. I have an issue with just too much fucking romance in in any comic book or show. It's like putting a kid in there for me. I hate kids and I hate romance.
I will address this by saying Marcus is not a bigot, and I will kissing his ass is up to you entirely. So let us take a look at the comments that have been piling up since we've been here. David says, thank you for doing the show, guys.
Thank you, David.
Thank you for watching and hanging out. Carlos was a fan of 2004 Dawn of the Dead when we were in our, I think that was part of our Zack Snyder discussion.
Just Zack's rhymes with cack.
Maria said, oh yes, the Watchmen. And also, oh yes, Butcher. He falls into my Pedro Pascal category. Uh-oh. Maria, do you have one of those lists of celebrities you're allowed to cheat on Carlos with should you ever encounter them? If so, please name your list. Marcus did address this. He has not read the newer issues of Fables.
I probably really should at some point. Probably will.
We have this interesting tidbit from Two Scoops, who said Echo, the Disney Plus show, which is a spin-off of where did she first appear? Hawkeye. I know her as a Daredevil character, so I always associate her with that. But in the DC shows, she was in Hawkeye. Disney Plus looks to delay Echo amid skinwalking controversy. Disney is really retooling the whole series before it dumps it all at once next month. Big data crunched all the dirty from the.
All right, I'm wondering what the Skinwalker controversy is.
Yeah, Two Scoops. Could you explain that? Because I have a native coworker, and he brings up. He asks me like every 6 weeks, "Hey, have you ever heard the stories of our Skinwalkers?" And I'm like, "Yeah." When you told them to me 6 weeks ago, man. Digital paparazzi here using big data for Disney scoops. Interesting. Mo says, we rock. Great Rex. Yeah, if you have any recommendations on things you think we should read or graphic novels or collected editions that you recommend, please leave a comment in either on Facebook, YouTube, drop us a line on Twitter. All our socials are there. We're easy to find.
Yeah. No, I'm curious. I'm so curious as to what this. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. I'm Googling Disney Echo Skinwalker controversy, and I'm not getting anything on the Google.
Maybe it was a race for Indigenous Day yesterday.
Yeah.
Happy Indigenous Day, everyone.
I would definitely like to see that, see what that is. And Echo, I mean, it sucks the way they've treated Echo. But I'm hearing bad things across the board.
Me too.
It's a horrible shame because she was such a great character, and she's hearing impaired and
native,
and that should have been and female, and that should be a tick of major boxes, a really good focal point.
Well, follow the bloody handprints. Now, do you mean bloody in the way that British people use it, or bloody as in they're full of blood?
Come on, Two Scoops, drop us a link. Come on, we need some skin. We need some skinwalking info. Yeah, and I'm disappointed because she was a great character. I was looking forward to seeing what they were going to do with her, and it just goes to show we've just had another misstep after misstep on Marvel from the shows. Now, we'll see what happens next month with the Marvels, which tickets are on sale right now, and I'm going to go see. Yeah, but I'm disappointed with that. I'm also disappointed the way they're treating Armor Wars. And obviously, we talked about Secret Invasion, which is quite possibly the worst Marvel show since the Trial of the Incredible Hulk.
Oh, wow. Damn.
That was a horrible episode because it had Thor, the Hulk, and Daredevil, and it was just pure bad.
And then Daredevil's costume was basically this. So, like, what was that about in the show? Did you start Loki? How are you digging the first episode if you have watched it?
Yeah, I started Loki.
I mean, I love the character. I think Hiddleston's great.
A tough one.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones that, it's very interesting to see how this will go because we still don't know if Jonathan Majors is still going to be Kang.
Yeah, it was weird even seeing a statue of him. I'm like, oh,
yeah. His trial got delayed, so we don't know what's happening there. I don't know.
I mean, you definitely have
I
superhero fatigue, and a lot of people do. So I totally
yeah.
get that.
I mean, Loki season 1 was obviously great. We all enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna, much like with Ashoka or Ahsoka. I know you loved it, but
I
that
did.
finale, man, that finale was just a bunch of blue ball inducing bollocks. It really was.
I didn't mind it.
I know you didn't, but I mean, the way that show was put together, if you hadn't watched Rebels, and I thank God you and Semmel had badgered me to watch Rebels, because otherwise I would have known fuck all. I'd have known Ahsoka from the book of the book of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that's about it. And then
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't,
Sabine, Ezra, Hera. It doesn't mean you're right.
yeah, Chopper. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm actually I started rewatching Rebels, and I got to say it's more enjoyable than Ahsoka.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, Rebels is one of my favorite things ever. So that's a high bar for me.
But I mean, Ahsoka, like I said, Ahsoka, it just all it did was just reverse the fucking end of Rebels, where it's like, oh, Ezra's off going this way with Thrawn, and now, oh, Ezra's going off this way with Thrawn.
Right. Well, I mean, there
I
is
mean,
another season and a
there's
movie.
no, they haven't confirmed another season because Filoni
Yes,
is.
they did.
When did they confirm
That
it?
was earlier or late last week. I
Okay,
saw it on IO9. I mean, it wasn't confirmed, but they said it's pretty much happening.
because my understanding is Filoni is looking to wrap everybody up, all these things up in his movie in
They will.
2025.
They
Which
will.
doesn't leave much time to finish off Mandalorian, and Ahsoka and everything else. And I mean, I wasn't even happy with how they used Thrawn. Just so it's just.
I liked him. I thought he was, which Mickelson, Lars. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, but
I thought he
don't
was
get me
great.
wrong, he's a great actor, but I just felt they underused him. I mean, it would have been better if they'd have called this Rebels season 6.
5.
Just got it 5, 6, whatever, 5.5. Got Thrawn and Ezra back midway through because there was so much breadcrumb following for Ahsoka and everybody else, and it's just like there were 3 or 4 episodes that were just felt like filler in an 8-episode run, and that's not good. And that's started to happen with all the Disney Plus stuff now. I mean, with the exception of Andor last year. Andor was brilliant. Nothing was
but
filler.
that was the most un-Star Wars of the whole thing.
And maybe it needed to be. Maybe that was the beauty of Andor.
It is
maybe
the beauty of Andor. No,
yeah,
it told
maybe
it's a political story.
Maybe we're all tired of of mediocre lightsaber battles, and if they'd have wrapped that up, Ahsoka up as a 1 season, one and done, that would have been absolutely great, knowing that the movie was coming. Because now we don't get Ray, what's his name? Because he's passed. Ray Stevenson. So what's going to happen to his character? They're going to recast,
right?
Or they're going to CGI him, for fuck's sake.
Seems like you got to recast.
Yeah,
he seems like he has a lot to do. I mean,
I just don't have a lot of faith in what Disney's doing right now.
You're right.
And plus, they have the temerity to up the prices of Disney Plus.
They're
not offering a great service anymore.
There is a lot of subtext in Ahsoka that you'll either miss or it doesn't mean anything to you unless you've seen Clone Wars and Rebels, and that that's a mistake to leave so much of that in there. Like the Mortis gods play an important part of it, but a lot of people don't know who the hell the Mortis gods are. He's the guy that Balin is standing on. He's standing on the statue of the Father at the end, and it's basically like the Holy Trinity of the Force, and that happens pretty early on in Clone Wars. But
the Night Sisters,
the Night Sisters too, yeah,
to the live action universe. And actually, I mean, I've had my first experience of the Night Sisters in the Star Wars Heroes game, the
Oh, that's
iPad
right.
game, because
Right.
you get
You
all the
team
you
up
get
with
all the
one.
sisters.
Right.
Yeah, you can actually unlock their cards and unlock their characters. So it's interesting to see them. I just think that they could have condensed, got a lot more beats into it. I mean, unless that, we're all thinking now the movie is going to be Heir to the Empire.
Yeah. But I mean, from my perspective, none of it seemed like filler to me at all.
I mean, yeah, I
I
think with
totally
all due respect,
understand.
you're a tad biased towards it. I understand you're biased because, again, you're way more invested in that
I am. Oh,
particular
and no, that's
thing
totally
than I
why.
am.
But because I've seen all these things, like the significance of Morai being there at the end, like that doesn't mean anything to a lot of the people that watched it, and totally understandable. So he had a choice to make. I mean, and it's a tough balancing act. And I think in my episode and my other podcast, Paul said that he did not do a good job of serving the audience that doesn't know Clone Wars and Rebels.
You have another audience, another podcast. You
I
cheated on
do.
me, Mr. Hamill.
I have to.
Is he on your list?
I'm checking it twice. No.
Yeah. No, I mean, he really didn't. Filoni definitely did not service the non. I mean, and look, there's a huge swath of people. Yes, there are hardcore fans who are like, oh, Clone Wars and oh, Rebels, and that's great. But there is a bigger audience of Star Wars fans who enjoy the movies and enjoy the shows who have not gone anywhere near Clone Wars or Rebels for the same reason that I initially didn't go for either of them, because they were cartoons.
Right. Or the alternative is maybe there are some people that want to learn more about what the hell they just watched. So maybe some will go back and watch Clone Wars and Rebels, and it's on the subscription service they already have.
Yeah,
so.
I've seen a lot of discussion posts that have been going through and just critiquing the slow points. A lot of slow points in this, and it really didn't need to be named Ahsoka, because for somebody,
I don't think it was her show.
It wasn't her show.
I thought it was really Sabine's show more than anything else. To me, it was Sabine's show.
Yeah. Which, I mean, Rosario Dawson is a very, very good actress, and she just felt so underused.
I thought she was a bit flat in this.
I mean, she probably signed on, looked at the script, and then thought, fuck, what have I let myself in for?
But I loved, seeing Ezra in live action. I thought he nailed the character as an adult Ezra.
Yeah, look, Ezra, Sabine, Hera, Chopper.
Yeah, Hera.
There was no Zeb. I mean, again, no Zeb. I mean, we had that throwaway of Zeb in The Mandalorian.
Right.
And then we didn't see him in this one.
Right.
I mean, it would have been much more interesting to actually review this, like I said, as a live action Rebels. And you see what's happened to the group post the end of season 5 or season 4, whatever it was. Yeah. After Ezra's gone with Thrawn. To see that Hera's now, she's got the little one, and she's a general, and how they've also drifted apart. I mean, the fact that Zeb is just he's a core part of that gang.
Yeah.
I mean, Kanan's dead, but you can't leave Zeb out, and it would have just been nice to have them perhaps reunite to tackle this, and then have Fulcrum.
Right. Well, maybe that's my hope for season 2, is that you get all the living ones together with Jason, and then hopefully we see the nice home that Callus and Zeb have made for each other. So
yeah,
I'm totally shipping those two. Well, I think that about does it for our comic book picks for the best graphic novels and collected editions that were not in DC and Marvel. Please share some of yours. We would love to read them. And all our socials are there. Leave a comment. Please like and subscribe. Liking and subscribing really helps get us more views and allows us to do more episodes. So all of that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
We will see you next time on the Beer Pad. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and watching.
What are we going to talk about next week?
I don't know. What do you want to talk about, Marcus?
I don't fucking know. What do you want us to talk about next week, good people?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Why don't you drop us a line there and we will talk about that.
Drop us a line on the Twitter or here on this, on the Facebook stream or whatever. Because obviously I won't say X because that's just stupid. It's still fucking Twitter as well.
Yeah, I am trying to not use Twitter.
Yes. But yeah, just drop us a line. I don't want to talk about Loki till way further into the. We could talk about Gen V. I've been watching Gen V, and I'm fully caught up, and I think there's a new episode. Was it tonight of Gen V? Is it a Monday night drop or is it a Friday night drop?
Rob wants us to talk about Gen V. I think it is a Thursday night. It's a Friday. It's supposed to be a Friday drop, so Thursday night.
Okay, so we'll have like 5 episodes in to discuss Gen V. That I could do because I'm thoroughly enjoying Gen V.
Yes, I wonder why. It is dark and violent, and that is also in your wheelhouse.
In another life, I am Homelander.
It is
without the overt racism.
Welsh Homelander.
Yes, without the overt racism, sexism, and misogyny and shit. I'd just be an evil bastard. But I'd only be evil to other evil people.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, take care for now, you guys and gals, and we will see you next time on the Beer Pad. Bye-bye.
Bye.